Alright, hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. So today's video we are going to be doing an in-shop review where I am going over everything that is currently in the store and if it is worth it or not to buy. Just a little bit of a guide to help you know what is worth it in the shop, in my opinion, what is a good deal and just what the tanks are all about. So we're going to go ahead and jump right into it. Here we have the very first item. We have a nimble platoon. So this is just two tier 3 tanks if I'm not mistaken here. We are looking at, two tier 2 tanks here, the T1E6 and the Tekerech here for only $3. So I mean, personally I wouldn't go for this just because they're tier 2s and I don't think tier 2s are something you need to be spending too much time on, and they are only $3 though, but if you really enjoy playing those lower tiers, most of these lower tier deals are actually pretty cheap, so they're really not that big of a deal to buy. And 1 second though, what is up with Wargaming saying how much these are worth? What, 16 bucks for that? $250 for that? Wargaming, hello? Since when is stuff worth that much? Okay. My goodness. Next up we have some crates here. We have Squad of Strangers. These are the lucky containers basically where you are going to have a pretty decent chance at some tanks here. These are some pretty nice crates in my opinion, but if you notice how expensive they are $45. Now one thing I will say is you are guaranteed a tank in here in these crates, and if you already have that tank, your crate moves up 1 tier to the next tier, and if you get that tank, you can get all the way up to tier 10 with these. So you are guaranteed a tank for all of these, but it is quite expensive at $45 for 4 tanks. And you don't know what those tanks are going to be. They could be crap, they could be great. You could get tier 8, and then you get a tier 8 you already have, then a tier 9 you already have, then you get a tier 10 for, what you thought a tier 8 price was. So they can be worth it. They are interesting crates, but they are pretty expensive, so I would not recommend them just due to that price. Next up, we have the Unstoppable Defenders. This is a bundle here where you get all 4 of the Defender tanks. As well, you do get some crates with that 5 T22 medium crates and 5 Object 260 crates, as well as lots of 5 times boosters. You get garage slots for them, 9 equipment slots, and everything like that, as well as an avatar. And this to me is actually a pretty good deal. This is like 12 bucks per tank, and they're all tier 8 tanks plus 10 crates. In my opinion, that is really not too bad of a deal right there for you to get. They're all auto loaders, like I said. They're pretty good. Only really the AMX isn't like that good of a tank. T28, I like it. Defender Mark 1 is an amazing tank. IS-3 is okay, and the AMX is okay. But I think that's a decent deal right there. So we have the same thing right here now where you just don't get the crates in this one because it's for gold, and this is 25,000 gold. So if you don't really care about the crates and you have gold but you don't want to spend the money, this is what you would want to go for instead. Next up we have just the Battle Pass. I don't recommend buying this part of the Battle Pass for 20 bucks because you can just grind some missions and get there for free, or not free, for $15 cheaper, and not have to worry about that at all. So I wouldn't recommend doing that, but I would recommend going for the Premium Pass because that does, of course, give you lots of pretty good rewards in the Battle Pass, as well as a tank. Next up, we have the KV5 here. And the KV5, in my opinion, it's a pretty meh tank. There's not much about it. There's not too much special about this tank. You do get 30 days of premium and 500,000 credits with it, as well as some other goodies in there. So it's not a horrible deal. It can be really good in gravity for ramming tanks, but overall, it's really not the best tank. But if you want the KV5, or if you really love ramming and gravity, it is pretty good for that, and it's a pretty cheap price. Next up, we have the Sniping Kanonen Jagdpanzer. Now, this is going to be a 15,000 gold bundle here, and as well you get 3 mystery crates in this deal as well. And this is the first time the Kanonen has come for gold, so it's pretty expensive here at 15,000. So I was going to get the Kanonen, but then I saw that it's 15,000 and decided not to, because I'll wait one more time maybe for the price to go down, hopefully, because that is really expensive for a tier 8. There's tier 10s that come out for 15,000, so I really don't think you should be paying that much for a Kanonen at tier 8. Next up, we have the T54E2 and the Chieftain T95. Here is a deal for 2 tier 8 heavy tanks, both with their legendary avatars, and legendary camouflages. You get an avatar and those other things in this as well. So this is pretty expensive here, but you do get 2 tier 8 premiums. I think this is good because you get the T-54E2. That is a great tank. The Chieftain T-95 isn't really the best tank out there, so this is kind of a hard deal. I'm not really sure if it's worth it or not. I mean, 15,500 is 500 more than the Kanonen, and you get 2 tanks, so it's worth it if you're going off like the Kanonen. But you know what? I don't think it's too bad of a deal. I will say though, the T-95 really isn't that good of a tank, so this is a really hard deal. I'm not sure what you would want to go on with this one. You know, I would probably not get it just because it is pretty expensive, and the T-95 is kind of a useless tank that I never play, so I really wouldn't do it. But if you want both those tanks, then it's a pretty decent deal. That's a tough one though. Next up, we have the German invasion containers. These are going to give you a 10% drop chance for all of these German tanks here, and I think these are actually pretty decent crates for what you have here. They're not super expensive, and as well you get a decent drop chance, and all the German premiums are pretty good. I mean, there's really, the only bad one in here is going to be the Panzer 58 and the Panther 8.8. Other than that, they're all going to be pretty good. So these are some decent crates, but since they are crates, I still wouldn't recommend them because you never know what's going to happen with crates. Next up, we have the TD invasion, which is the same thing just for TDs. These I wouldn't recommend quite as much because there's quite a few not so good tanks in here. I mean, AT-15A is kind of average. There's some average tanks in here. The ISU, the SU, the Blaze, kind of average. And there's some stuff like that in there that's not really that good compared to the Germans, which are mostly good. So I would go with the Germans over this. There are some really good tanks in there as well, though. So kind of rate that the same as the German deals. So now we have Double Trouble, which is going to be the Object 250, Object 252U, and the SU-130 PM for 15,000 gold. I think this is a pretty dang good deal here. You get basically 7,500 gold for both, for each of these tanks, basically, and they're both amazing tanks. Object 252U, of course, is a pretty dang OP tank, as well the SU-130 PM is a pretty good tank as well, so I would recommend that. Next up, we have this deal. We have the AC-4 Sentinel and the FE201. This is a decent deal, 5,000 gold for a Tier 6 and a Tier 7 premium. I don't think that's too bad, as well you get some other things in there. They're not the best premiums, but it's not too expensive either. Next up, we have the Heroic Loza Sherman. Now, if you don't have this tank because you didn't play the event, it's not a horrible deal, but I really wouldn't go for it. I just don't feel like there's much of a need to buy Tier 6 premiums, in my opinion. They're not really that useful of tanks, you know, for grinding or anything like that. And there's quite a few similar tanks to most of the premiums there. So I really wouldn't recommend this one too much. Alright, and now we have all these things in here like this. These are kind of, you just make up your mind. If you want these, most of them are worth it. Like the gold ones, they're worth it compared to the regular gold you can buy. You get a few extra things. So most of the things in here in general are worth it. Not the boosters though. Do not get the boosters. Those are definitely not worth it. And same for like this stuff right here. Don't get this. Really just the gold in there. Now these are pretty much all the same here. These are all just tanks though. Instead we have yeah, most of these deals here are the same. We have separate ones, though, for the AMX Defender, the Mark 1 Defender, the IS-3 Defender, and the T-28 Defender. All these are decent deals right here. They're kind of expensive. Definitely don't go for the AMX one. That is way too expensive for how much that tank is worth. I think the Defender Mark 1 is probably the best out of these, and as well the T-28 Defender out of those. But the other two I really wouldn't recommend going for. And then all these are pretty much the same. Are they the same? Oh, wait, no, we have the T-54E2 out of the thing here. We have it for 10,000 gold and 1,500. It has always been a pretty expensive tank, so it's about the same as it was before. It is a great tank, though, so it's not a bad deal for the tank if you do want it. And same for the Object 252U there. That is a great tank and a pretty decent deal for that as well. And the FE201 is 3,000 out of the bundle, and the AC-4 Sentinel is 2,000. I would say the FE out of that bundle is definitely a pretty decent tank price right there, but the AC-4 Sentinel right there is probably not going to be worth it just for a Tier 6 tank, but it's not a horrible price either. And then we have the SU-130 PM, which is 8,500 gold, and that is probably worth it as well. And these are just the tanks that they left in the tech tree here that we have, yeah. Down there. Alright, so that is everything in the shop, everyone. Quite a long video here. There was a lot to go over in the shop. Try to go through as fast as I can, and I hope that excuse me, that helps you know what to purchase in the shop. Hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.